English version, Spanish version was few minutes ago. Today, I have prepared an editorial comment where I want to approach the situation that we are living as an immigrant community and as a nation. And the question is, what we will do now? How we will act and how we will think. Therefore, without any more introduction, I will give reading to this editorial comment. Clarity of thought, clarity of action. We are living in times of uncertainty, injustice, and impunity. Times when violence can be found on any street corner, and when we are constantly flooded with violent images. All of this comes at a cost, and the community pays the price, especially the immigrant community. The separation of families, the abuse of thousands that have suffered through unjust detentions as victims of racial profiling, and those who have died in ICE detention centers. The latest figure report by The Guardian is 31 unnecessary deaths caused by cardiac arrest, depression, strokes, respiratory illnesses, and suicide. Today we have a Supreme Court that has consent to the xenophobic actions of the current administration. We have realized that it is no longer only the immigrant community that is at risk, not just since the summer of 2025, as some have claimed, but since 2008 and even earlier. Let me tell you and let me take you through history. Today, as in those days, citizens feel at risk, although now it has reached the levels of national debate. The executions of Alex Pretty and Rene Good are deaths that should never happen. They open the eyes of a moderate sector that, as long as events did not disturb their comfort, prefer not to see. But they can no longer ignore it, because they witness cold-blooded killings. All of us, we have witnessed that. Yes, the deaths of Pretty and Good were preceded by that of George Floyd, which we also saw before our eyes in real time during the pandemic. And beyond that, we have lived through the deaths of hundreds of immigrants over the past decades. Last year in the documentary Maconi, I presented the case of Juan Hernandez Lugo, murdered in Norristown on March 15, 2002. A crime that remains unsolved and has been shelved. Years later, in the Villa Inmigrante podcast in 2008, that I reported for the Public Radio Mexico in Radio Universidad de Guadalajara, I reported on the murder of Luis Eduardo Ramirez Zavala, a 25 years old immigrant who was killed by Derek Donchak and Brandon Piekarski. This was in the year 2008 in the town of Shenandoah, Pennsylvania. It was not until February 2011 that they were sentenced to 9 years in prison, according to the records of the Department of Justice records. During the jury sessions, both Donchak and Piekarski, then young men, say that they had not intended to kill Eduardo Zavala, Ramirez Zavala, but that it had been awarded because it was like kicking a dog in the street. End of the quotation. Those were the words of these two white supremacists. In those years, Latino journalists, like myself and many others, and activists protested, and we saw the growing hatred and hateful narrative being cultivated in the country. However, most people didn't know, and most people ignored it. Many comments that I hear of that time and that I register in my diaries was that people say, "Oh, they were young people of the high school. They will learn their lesson." There was empathy with the perpetrators, not with the victims. The cost of that, or what happened, the lesson, was that the life of Luis Eduardo Ramirez left his family without a father and a husband, just like the family of Juan Hernandez Lugo here in Norristown. At this moment, Donchak and Piekarski are already out of prison. By 2020, they have completed their sentences, but Luis Ramirez's life will never return. This country has had many wake-up calls, year after year. The Southern Poverty Law Center reports and tracks hate crimes across the nation and has identified hate groups operating within it. Yet, even with all this, citizens, in their sense of security, did not want to pay attention to all these crimes and to the growing wave of hate of the white extreme, or the right extreme. Migration was treated as an issue that could be stretched indefinitely without a serious and humane approach. Administration after administration ignored it. When Republicans address it, it is and it has been to demonize immigrants, to dehumanize immigrants, to criminalize immigrants. When Democrats address it, it was with a lukewarm approach, no really taking it seriously or with the depth that is necessary. Ignoring the issue allowed the far right, with this xenophobic discourse, to mobilize masses, even clergy, and even colonized people such as Latino for Trump, who choose to turn against their own people for a bowl of lentils. Those pastors who influence their congregations to vote for the men in the White House should publicly ask forgiveness and show true repentance, especially the Latino pastors who promote Trump to the White House. They should show true repentance and ask for forgiveness, public forgiveness. It is one thing for the members of their congregations to fall into the discourse, and another to be led to that by spiritual leaders. History and faith, history and the Lord will judge that action. And the judgment, if they believe in God, the judgment of God will be upon them. At the same time, I want to be fair. There is also a group of clergy who have acted with the heart of justice, some of who have even been arrested, protecting the immigrants. Just recently, in the last few weeks, to all of you, to all those pastors and clergy that has been standing on the right side of history and the gospel, thank you. Gracias. The greatest alarm came on January 6, 2021, the assault on the Capitol by the far-right groups who violated constitutional laws, killed police officers and guards, and followed without reasoning the voice of hatred and Trump's lies. The day revealed the cold that had already formed, but that had been cultivated for decades and centuries. The Tea Party movement in the 2000s and 2010s laid much of the groundwork. As an international student that I was in those years, I remember constantly debating classmates who defended nationalism, nativism, and American pride without realizing that they were building xenophobia. It creates a society of hate to create a movement that later will commit crimes. More than 20 years of cultivating hate against immigrants has now borne bitter fruit. It is necessary to have a historical perspective because this did not begin last summer, as some have said. Perhaps they discovered it then, but this has been building for decades. So the question is, so what comes next? What are the steps that we need to take ahead? For us, those steps have been clear. First, we need to continue building bridges of solidarity and maintaining open dialogue with authorities at all levels. We have done this, and we will continue doing it. It was on January 27, 1 year ago, 2025, when here in Norristown we had the first deportation during the Trump administration, and that day, se got a call to a community assembly with representatives of all the government levels. We were in conversation with the community 1 year ago. Since then, we have sustained 4 community assemblies, and we will continue doing so. Why? Because we need to continue maintaining open and honest dialogue and respectful dialogue of equals with authorities. This has allowed us to help many cases through all this year, having all this fluid and fluent communication. Second, reliable information based on facts, no rumors or vague accusations. When people say that this person has been accused, well, here the question is who and why? Who accused and why accused? To make declarations like this without concrete information, it creates rumors. Or when they say, these people have done this and have done that, or they are helping this or they are helping that, without concrete data, that means misinformation to the community, increased anxiety, and can even prevent people from accessing important resources. Verify information with concrete data must be the standard not only of serious journalism, but especially of social leadership. There is enormous responsibility in being heard. We cannot speak from anger, as if the mind were always shouting. We, social leaders, we have the responsibility of every day to calm our minds, to settle our minds, to put in order our thoughts, our feelings. Because if our head inside is constantly screaming, what it will come out from our mouths, it will be always screaming. It will be always shouting. Social leaders have the responsibility to order the thoughts, to think deeply, so that the actions are precise, not merely emotional, but reasoned and purposeful. This struggle is not about the social leader. Let's remember that. It's not about us as social leaders. It's not for personal protagonism, searching protagonism here or there, or fulfilling someone's sense of purpose of life. It is not about us, but it is about caring for the community and providing the tools necessary for its safety. That must be the focus. At the end of the day, the protagonist is the community. That is why we say, viva la comunidad. It's not this person or that person or that person. It's the community. Third, family preparedness, family readiness. Since November 2024, only a few days after Trump was elected, the new version of Dialogues of the Immigrant Village started to air. And from that time, in 2024, November, we have asked the families to pursue legal readiness. Here, we have been doing it since then. Families must seek guidance, create a plan, and work a plan. We don't know which misfortune to anyone, but it's possible reality. We have been offering consultations, and we will continue to do so for anyone who comes to our door. Fourth, primary assistance to families who have fallen into crisis. This has been the most difficult part because resources are limited. But having a plan beforehand makes that the help that we can give, it is more effective. Through all this year, to the families that has come to us, we have been able to help. To some in certain proportions, to some with some assistance, and with some resources. But everything what we do, if the family is ready, it will have more impact because it will be according to a plan. But when the family is not ready, it becomes more difficult. Therefore, I insist, families pursue a plan that you can have before anything happens. We don't want anything to happen, but it is very possible that can happen. Finally, it is important to value all efforts and the struggles of ego. Let me talk about this. In all these journeys, ego is a big thing, and we need to pay attention to it. It is good. Let me tell to everyone. I hear about 2 vigils happening this weekend. It's good that both vigils are happening and organized by different sectors on these days. It is good that it's reaching out more people. That is important. It is good that it's happening in 2 locations. That is good. Both vigils are valid, and both vigils are necessary, especially when it's covering a bigger area, because we need the greatest possible awareness among the people. Now I understand that one of the vigils has been postponed for next week due to weather issues. Therefore, that's good. Therefore, for those who are in the vigil tonight, good. Do it with the purpose that is intended to create conscientization. For the vigil that will be next week, good. It's important to recognize every effort. I want to close with these wise words from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was a pastor and who was one of those pastors on the right side, on the correct side. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Let us take care of one another and pursue the justice we seek with wisdom and concrete, well-thought of actions, not only with emotions, because at the center of everything is the care of our community. Take care of yourselves. Un abrazo para todos, para todas, para todes. Until the next week, this was your friend Obed Arango for Diálogos de la Villa Inmigrante. Muchas gracias.